Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video. In today's video I'm taking you over the best $500 gaming PC build for 2016. This is possibly one of the best PC builds I've ever put together for $500, and it will perform admirably in both gaming and editing. So without any further ado, let's get into today's GeekaWhat video. So the first question I often get asked with builds is how well will it perform? So this build will smash the latest AAA titles at 1080p and even 1440p, medium to high settings, 60 to 80 frames per second, with anti-aliasing on 2 or 4 times rather than the highest 6 or 8 or off completely. So let's get into the parts list for this build. The CPU I went for is a 6-core monster from AMD. Comes in at $98 and it's the AMD FX 6300. The eagle-eyed among you will have realised that AMD released a newer version of this, the 6350, but the only advantage of that is it's an overclocked version of the 6300, something which you can replicate on the motherboard anyway. And for $100, or $98 to be precise, this is a very, very nice CPU. For the motherboard, I went for the MSI 760GMA-P34FX Micro ATX AM3 Plus motherboard. It's got the AM3 Plus socket, which is slightly newer addition compared to the AM3 socket, giving you a bit more extra performance, and is very solid with USB 3, PCI 3 and SATA 3 6 gigabit per second, which is incredibly important with this architecture and with the storage configuration that I've gone for, and for $45 it's incredibly solid. For the memory, I went for two 4GB DIMMs of Kingston HyperX Fury White. It's DDR3-1600MHz memory. DDR4 doesn't pose much of an advantage for gaming, not at the current state, hence why I went for an older AMD architecture as opposed to a DDR4 Skylake architecture. That comes at $40, is very, very solid. You get double the bandwidth as opposed to one single 8GB stick, as I've gone for two 4GB DIMMs. For storage, it's where it gets very interesting and very, very nice indeed. I've gone for an SSD and a hard drive separate, which is the fastest storage combination you can go for if you want to get that nice value and that huge amounts of mass storage. So your C drive, your boot drive, the Kingston SSD Now V300 series is 120GB 2.5-inch SSD. So SSD storage is much more reliable than hard drive storage, but it's also much more expensive. At $40, 120GB is more than enough to have your operating system, a browser and a couple of games, but isn't enough per se to have it as your only drive. Hence why I've gone for a Seagate Barracuda 1TB drive for mass storage. 7200 RPM, which is as fast as hard drives get, and also at $40 they are both very, very good deals. For the video card, I went for the XFX Radeon R9 380. It's got a 4GB frame buffer, making it better for those higher resolutions, so your 1440p. Not going to be quite going up to 4K, not with a single one of these cards anyway. It's got XFX's Double Dissipation cooler on to keep the card nice and cool, and XFX do some great jobs not only stylistically and aesthetically, but also in the performance department. At $180, this card is extremely solid for the price. For the case, I went for the ThermalTake Versa H21 window. I have used this case a hell of a lot in my 2016 builds, but there is a reason for that, because it's extremely nice looking, it's got all the features, and it comes at $32, which is an incredible deal. It's got a window on the side so you can admire your hard work once you've built your computer, and USB 3 so you can take advantage of those faster transfer speeds. For the power supply, I went for something a little bit beefier than I normally would, but that's because I've gone mainly AMD, where I have gone all AMD for this build, using an AMD graphics card, which are typically more power hungry, and an AMD CPU, which is also typically more power hungry. I've gone for a 600 watt 600B EVGA 80 plus bronze certified ATX power supply. It gives 600 watts, which is more than enough for this build, and gives around 215-ish watts of headroom, 216 I believe, I need to double check that, and it's 80 plus bronze certified, which means it's guaranteed to run above 80% efficiency at all times, saving you not only money at the wall, but also making your components last longer and increasing the longevity of your system. And for $25, there is an absolute killer deal on this at the moment. If you did find this build helpful, drop a like rating, make sure to subscribe, follow my Twitter at GeekaWhat, drop a like, any questions, queries, comments, put them below or on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next GeekaWhat video.